When is too much and enough going to be too much and enough with the exploding rates of autism? Autism rates are rising exponentially, with recent statistics estimating that 1 in 36 kids are now on the autism spectrum, and a much higher even for boys. And just 1 to 2 generations ago at most, it was about 1 in 1,500. It's time to take this way more seriously and address the root cause of autism head on, instead of simply continuing to blame genetics and say, we don't know what's going on. If you or someone you know has a child with autism, undoubtedly as a parent, the first question that you'll ask is, why? Specifically, is autism genetic? Still today, this is a long-held assumption that genetics and heritability must explain sharp increases in diagnosis and the wide variation in symptoms across the spectrum. However, we're here to challenge that assumption and propose an empowering new perspective backed by emerging science. While genetics do of course play a role through something called genetic predispositions, even traditional medical doctors and media outlets are now being forced to admit that there is an environmental factor. While they pretty much leave it as that, a general blanket statement regarding the environment, we do the opposite. This video and all of our content will take you deep into the real root causes of known triggers of autism spectrum disorder. We now know that there is a full-on environmental perfect storm brewing for kids struggling with autism, and genetics only play a small role in that whole picture. This video is for parents and caregivers of children anywhere on the autism spectrum, seeking clarity and community and care options that dive deep into the real root cause of autism, rather than merely calling it genetic and hoping to work around the challenges that autism presents. We'll explore evidence on genetic links to autism and why genes alone fail to explain recent rises in autism. Instead, we'll introduce what we call the perfect storm, where accumulated stressors and dysfunction disrupts nervous system function over months and years, altering the trajectory of childhood development. Parents will find drug-free answers to help their child's perfect storm. I'll never forget the first 3-year-old patient with autism I was able to care for. After 3 years of constant struggles with everything from sleep to sensory meltdowns, speech delays, major motor tone and coordination challenges, constipation, chronic respiratory infections, and so forth, his parents took him in for a full-day neuropsych evaluation shortly after his 3rd birthday. It was here that they received his autism diagnosis and also were told there's nothing that you can do to help. His birth had nothing to do with it. His gut issues have nothing to do with it. Diet changes and detoxes won't help. Get used to it and save your money. Because one day, you'll be older and he'll be bigger. And you'll have to put him in a home when you can't take care of him anymore. The number one question that parents ask, what's causing autism? When parents ask why autism occurs, mainstream medicine often says better recognition, better testing, genetics. They only recently finally started to admit that there's also a mix of environmental factors at play, but then offer very little explanation or research behind that statement. While genetic factors are always at play for various conditions, we've known for nearly 2 decades now that genetics don't explain chronic illness all on their own. There's no single autism gene because over 100 genes regulate risks, but mutations only appear in about 10% of cases. So what environmental factors matter most? This is where things get fascinating, interesting, exciting, and frustrating all at the same time, because it's a multifactorial conversation. Here's what we know about this perfect storm sequence or list of stressors and toxins. Mom's preconception health sets the stage for baby's health during pregnancy. Prenatal or maternal stress is a big deal. The brain and nervous system is the only system within our entire body that's not fully developed at birth. And there's a large chunk of neurological development that happens before kids take their first breath. The umbilical cord is the power cord. It's not just for nutrition and waste removal and blood flow. It's the direct connection between mom's brain and nervous system and baby's brain and nervous system. So babies feel all of the stress, the fear, the concerns, and the worries that moms feel. The autonomic nervous system develops during utero. That part of our neurological control that deals with the fight or flight versus the parasympathetic rest and digest sides of our nervous system. And especially within the 3rd trimester, mom's vagal tone, which the vagus nerve is heavily influenced in socialization, emotional regulation, gut and immune system challenges, babies will take on mom's vagal tone, or the function of the vagus nerve, in the third trimester. Birth interventions and trauma are a big deal. In a normal, natural, unmedicated vaginal delivery, there's about 60 to 90 pounds of pressure that's being placed onto the head, neck, and rest of the body. When we add interventions at delivery, like Pitocin, inductions, epidurals, forceps, vacuums, or C-section deliveries, that amount of pressure and tension onto baby's head and neck significantly and exponentially increases. And it impacts the most delicate and underprotected area of the entire body, and that's our upper neck. Our brainstem lives there. It's intimately created or connected to our ability to latch and to feed. We already talked about our vagus nerve, and that's exactly where our vagus nerve lives, is right within the upper neck. And then it goes down to our gut. It goes down to our heart and our lungs and the digestive tract. And it plays such a significant role with our ability to calm and regulate socialization, as well as emotional regulation. Early exposure to antibiotics, medications, and toxins is a big deal. One thing that I share with parents when it's necessary in the office is that moms are preemptively put onto antibiotics in preparation for cesareans to deliver their baby. All it takes is one round of antibiotics to be able to alter the microbiome or our gut makeup for a lifetime. And as we start piecing the puzzle together, we understand that if our gut and our vagus nerve and the stress onto the nervous system is there from before they take their first breath, it really sets up the stage for chronic infections, chronic ear infections, chronic respiratory challenges, gut and immune system issues, and then leads into the sensory struggles, as well as behavioral issues later on. Then on top of all of these things, other clinical experiences and emerging research are starting to talk about things such as exposure to EMFs, like blue light, Wi-Fi, screen time, that disrupts our sleep and our circadian rhythms, as well as our hormones. Mold and other household toxins or chemicals in our foods, our soaps, detergents, household products, personal care products, and toxins and medications and other medical interventions. So what does the perfect storm do? These events lead to a neurological tipping point for many children, where they may be developing normally or mostly on track, and then once all of this stress and toxicity adds up or stacks up, their nervous system gets locked into a sustained, stuck fight or flight pattern of sympathetic dominance. Once the nervous system is shifted and stuck into this pattern, all of the development and general health functions are thrown off track, like our gut and our immune system function, our gross motor and fine motor development, our quality and quantity of sleep, overall body inflammation, and so much more. Once these challenges start to pile up, the brain and then the nervous system then gets thrown off track and begin to struggle with the core elements of autism, like communication, social interaction, sensory processing, restricted and repetitive behaviors, stimming, and a whole heck of a lot more. If your child has an autism diagnosis and you've been told that there's nothing that you can do to help them heal because it's purely genetic, it's time to learn more about the role that environmentals may have played and how your child really can heal and have a greatly improved quality of life. While mainstream medicine and media are finally admitting that there are environmental factors at play, they never dive deep and tell you what those truly are. To learn more about exactly what environmental triggers and perfect storm factors occur that can increase the risk of autism and contribute to its related challenges, click the link below or the one that's in our bio to read the full article, Is Autism Genetic?, and get the answers and the drug-free action steps that you deserve for your family and for your child.